Good morning, guys. Today we are going to be taking some notes on catastrophic events and discussing how they impact the ecosystems that we've been talking about. So if I was to ask you what 3 catastrophic events would be that would affect ecosystems, what kinds of things come to mind? I'll give you a second to think. Maybe something like a flood or a tornado, a hurricane, a drought, earthquakes. Those are the types of events that we're going to be talking about, right? Catastrophic events are going to be any event or force of nature that has catastrophic consequences. We get that word from catastrophe, right? Something terrible happening. So today I don't have a fill in the blank notes for you. You're just going to write in your journals the things that are underlined in the PowerPoint. Some examples of catastrophic events that we're going to talk about are avalanches, floods, tornadoes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. We're going to kind of touch on several different types. Now, are there more catastrophic events than I've listed here? Absolutely. We just only have a certain amount of time to cover them. So remember, this is going to be any catastrophe, any impact to an ecosystem, which we are also a part of, that's going to have consequences. So catastrophic events are sudden, natural or man-made disasters that happen and cause change and destruction. This, a lot of times, is the way that Earth maintains equilibrium. Remember when we talked about body systems, we talked about that equilibrium and talked about homeostasis. Well, the Earth also wants to be in that state of balance. And so the way that the Earth maintains that balance is through catastrophic events. These are not controllable, not always predictable, and studying these will help us to understand them, maybe learn how to predict them better so that we can prevent the destruction of property and the loss of people's lives. Equilibrium comes from two word parts. Equa, we see in the word equal, like the equator, all right, separates the world into two equal halves. Equality, right? That means equal. And Libra is a word that means balance. And so this equilibrium is an equal balance of parts. And so this is how those powers, forces, influences on Earth, whether it be energy, gravity, pressure, all of these have to maintain a stable, balanced pattern. And they're not always stable and balanced. And so these catastrophic events allow the Earth to be restored in its balanced state, that state of equilibrium. So for each topic that we're going to talk about, I want you guys to either write down and or just keep in mind the name of the natural disaster, what types of features, like what does it look like, how does it form, how does it affect the organisms in that area or wildlife, how does it affect the people, how does it affect the environment, are weathering and erosion, deposition a part of that particular catastrophic event? Where do they occur? Some catastrophic events are going to be in specific places and some are going to be able to occur anywhere. So just keep these questions in mind as we discuss each of the topics we're going to go over. The first topic we're going to talk about is avalanches. And this is not one that we see often in Texas, right? Avalanches occur usually in areas with lots of mountains and lots of snow. And avalanches can be man-made or they can happen as a result of gravity's pull on that snow and ice that's on the side of a mountain. It happens when there is a movement of the snow and ice downward on the side of a mountain or a tall hill. This snow and ice can also move rocks, plants, soil. So we're definitely going to see erosion happen when avalanches occur. And property damage. Move my face. Property damage that can occur is forests can get damaged. There can be the uprooting of trees, loss of life if there happen to be skiers or people that are hiking in an area where a natural avalanche has occurred. This can be really catastrophic. In a lot of places that have avalanches that occur naturally, like think Colorado, Alaska, places where there's mountains and lots of snow, they will schedule and purposefully cause avalanches to happen in areas where there's a higher risk of avalanches happening. So what they do is they insert explosives into the side of the snowbank and they cause kind of shaking, right, with that explosion, and that allows the snow and ice to be moved down the side of the mountain safely when there are not people below. They'll close off certain sections where there are skiers or hikers normally so that they can do a controlled avalanche, which allows for a lot of the things that would harm people to be prevented in this scenario. Is it still going to cause erosion, that movement of that rock and soil down the side of the mountain? Absolutely. But it's not going to harm people in its path. The next topic we're going to talk about is asteroids. And asteroids we often don't think of very often when we think of catastrophic events, but they're actually really common, and they come in contact with our Earth's atmosphere a lot of times in a year. We're going to watch a video. I'm going to link it at the end of on the assignment for today so that you can watch them, because the audio doesn't come through when I record them in my videos. But they're small rocks that orbit the sun. We usually find asteroids in the asteroid belt. However, the ones that interact with Earth obviously have become dislodged from that belt, and so they are going to interact with Earth's atmosphere. A lot of times these asteroids burn up upon impact, but they're being pulled to Earth through the force of gravity, right? And so it gets attracted to a planet, and it gets pulled into our planet's atmosphere by our planet's gravity. Now, there are different grades or sizes of asteroids, from 5 metric tons to up to 1 million metric tons, right? And remember, a metric ton is 1,000 kilograms. So there are small ones that don't even interact with the Earth. There are some that can cause some smaller amount of damage, right? Like every 100 years or so, minor risks. And as you get bigger, they're less and less common, but they cause more and more destruction, right? So here's kind of some illustrations of what different size impacts would look like if they were to hit our Earth. Now you're going to go watch the video on asteroids. So pause this one and come back to me after you watch that one. Really, go watch it. Okay, the next topic that we're going to talk about are earthquakes. Earthquakes happen because of a vibration of the Earth's crust. Remember, the Earth's crust is made up of lots of different plates, and when those plates interact with each other, excuse me, they can cause an earthquake to happen. This movement, this jostling, this buildup of pressure and energy. This is one of the ways that our Earth maintains equilibrium in those plates, because there's a buildup of energy as those plates either slide past each other or push against each other, and eventually there's going to be movement, right? A release of energy, a release of that pressure that's built up, and that's when we get an earthquake. Earthquakes can have severe consequences and actually cause other natural disasters, like landslides. They can cause avalanches because of the shifting of the Earth. They can cause fires, tsunamis. They can damage people's property. They can damage freeways, right? There's a huge amount of things that can become damaged when the Earth itself is shaken. And of course, people can lose their lives and animals as well. So earthquakes can be really catastrophic, right? Here's a couple of pictures of what can happen when an earthquake occurs. You think of a parking garage, that's what the picture on the left is, as a really strong, it holds cars, right? Hundreds of cars in a parking garage. But because of the shaking of the Earth, it kind of falls like Jenga blocks, right? It just kind of collapses in on itself. So it just shows kind of how powerful those earthquakes really can be. There's different causes of earthquakes depending on the type of boundary. We often see earthquakes happen along boundaries or fault lines, and this is where two plates come together, right? So there's going to be more friction, more buildup of energy in areas where two plates meet versus an area that's in the middle of a plate, right? And so sometimes they move away from each other. Usually we see these in the bottom of the ocean. Sometimes they push towards each other. This is compressional or a subduction zone sometimes. We often see mountains occur at those where they come together, like the Rocky Mountains. And then transform boundaries are like the San Andreas Fault, right? They're sliding past each other. And San Andreas Fault is the fault that runs through California. So we see a lot of earthquakes in California, in Japan, in Alaska, because they are all along the boundary between two plates. Now you're going to pause this video and go watch your earthquake video. Go watch your earthquake video. Do it now. Now, flooding is often a type of natural disaster that we see here in San Antonio. This is that overflow of water where there should be dry land and there is not. Obviously, water should not be coming out of windows, right? And so when we have a large, I'm going to slide this up there. When we have a large quantity of precipitation or a lot of snow that melts and overflows rivers, if there's a storm surge from a hurricane, all of these things can cause flooding to happen in an area. This can contaminate drinking water. This can damage property. It can really destroy acres and acres of crop fields or livestock through drowning or washing away the erosion of farmland. And so floods can have really severe consequences. And actually, a lot of natural disasters, flooding is a byproduct of, right? Think of hurricanes, tornadoes caused by thunderstorms. A lot of times there's flooding that accompanies these other natural disasters. So it can be really intense. And even here, if you see those flood gauges along the sides of the roads, those little yellow stakes that are marked and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's showing you how deep the water is. So we can definitely have this issue in certain areas of San Antonio and surrounding communities. Houston often floods because it's very close to sea level, and New Orleans is actually below sea level, and so it really floods when there is a hurricane or a storm that drops a lot of precipitation in an area. So flooding can be really detrimental to people and their property. These are just some pictures that I thought you guys would like to see of some different areas that were flooded. And there can be still water, like the picture with the White House, or there can be very fast moving water that carries a lot of debris. If there's flooding on the surface of the earth, that means that the sewers are also flooding, which can carry bacteria and cause people to get sick. So all of these are really bad issues that can come with flooding. You're going to watch your flood video, and that is where we are going to stop for today. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you again tomorrow.